Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rainbow Goddess YouTube channel. My name is Rosalie, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a conscious creator and a spiritual guide, supporting and bringing through divine messages to help all of us that are moving through this beautiful time on this beautiful planet. And today I have my Oracle deck. I wanted to bring through some messages for all of us. And I also wanted to speak into just navigating through manifestation and creation and creating the life that feels in alignment with our soul. And I know that this is a very heavily talked about topic in spirituality. And I wanted to speak into the component around how important experiential learning is on the journey. And I feel like we don't give that aspect of the journey enough credit. And what I mean by that is sometimes we want to skip over the learning part and we want to just figure it out so we can do it right. Follow the steps, read about it, and then, apply that. And that's kind of what we've learned from school, through learning from textbooks. We think that we can learn about something and then just apply it and it'll be perfect or it'll somehow achieve the results that we desire. And what I've noticed is that there is so much more wisdom gained in actually experiencing something firsthand for yourself. And so you can listen to other people speak about, manifestation or applying spiritual concepts, and this is how they did it, and this is what worked for them. But you're also a unique soul on a unique journey, and you're here to explore this path and this school of life in a way that is so intricately woven and unique to your own fingerprint that what you hear from someone else and how they did something isn't always going to click for you. And that's because we are incarnate. We're here to experience this playground of life, which sometimes means getting messy, sometimes means getting it wrong, sometimes means we try five, six, seven different ways of doing something before something actually clicks. And I think that's an important piece to talk about because, there's a lot of miracle solutions going around, where we actually see, like, buy this course, read this book, do this thing. And, if you follow everything right, you'll manifest $10,000 in a week or a month or whatever it is, right? And it's a beautiful idea. It's a beautiful thought, let's say, to have that um hope maybe this will work, maybe this won't. But I think what's more important for people to realize when it comes to manifestation is that you're not the one that's actually driving the car, so to speak. It's actually your soul's wisdom that is navigating through this journey and that is directing you towards what you need to learn and experience. And that there is no quick fix or cheat codes in life, right? And think about it as the universal intelligence has the most beautiful, intricate plan laid out for your life. And then we get a body and we learn through our cultural conditioning that we want things to happen instantly. We want it now. We want that house. We want that job. We want that dream partner. We want all these things because the wish is that we'll be happy and fulfilled and thriving, and we will be what we see when we look at images of other people or we look on social media and we see other people's lives and we're like, ah, I want that. I want that happiness and I want that aesthetic in my life, right? We have these desires, and those desires are beautiful and powerful, but there is something that is even more powerful and more beautiful. And that is what your soul came here to experience and learn. And there's no bypassing your soul lessons. There's no bypassing or trying to skip through the challenges in your life or the things that you're finding difficult. There isn't a quick fix for those things. And in our world, at times we want quick fixes, right? We want it to be easy and we want things to happen faster. But from what I've understood is that spirit would never rob you of any of that. By giving you what you think you want, manifesting for a lot of people, that's money, manifesting 10 grand tomorrow, by listening to this activation or doing this course. And I'm not discrediting those things, those kinds of things, because there are a lot of supportive courses and activations out there that do help you, but it's not going to work the way that we think, right? It's not going to be this instant miracle solution because what would be the fun in that? Right? How would we ever receive the gold, like the golden nugget, the wisdom, the embodiment from that? We wouldn't. We just wouldn't. It would be, okay, what's next? What else can I do? Right. And I think the beauty of being in this dimension, this reality where things take a long time to, or they feel like they do, to actually anchor and to manifest, is that we actually get to experience the process, like the procedure, the journey, so to speak, of how things come to be. Because from what I understand in higher realities, especially once we get into, the upper higher worlds of creation, we can manifest things instantly, instantaneously. There is no lag between, what we can imagine and what can be created into physicality. But in this dimension, I feel things just move slower. They don't instantly materialize. And there's good reason for that. Um, there's a lot of unconsciousness on this planet. And can you imagine having the power of a creator that can instantly manifest things and not having um, the maturity? The maturity to be able to discern what is supportive and beneficial for the highest and greatest good of all, following universal laws. There's a lot of things, right? So I just felt guided to speak into that a little bit, that there is this dance and co creation that occurs when we are creating, when we are manifesting with our higher selves, our soul, the universe, spirit, the divine, whatever you feel in resonance to. And that sacred dance, there's a surrendering that occurs because what's for you will always be for you. And there's like a safeguard too, right? Sometimes we, as like the person, ego, personality construct, we think we know what we want, but our soul always knows what's best for us. And so our soul will always choose the option that will support you in aligning to your soul's lessons and truth and journey. So when you're thinking about what it is that you want, it's actually better to be more in alignment with what is it that my soul really wants to support me with? What would really help my growth? Asking the right questions, like asking what will support you the most for your manifestations. And getting to know who you are, like who you truly are inside, beyond the ego construct, what you value, what's important to you on a soul level, can really help you align to your manifestations that will support you much quicker, if that makes sense. So when you want something that's in alignment for you, then everything will align for that to happen. Those manifestations will be supported, the universe will guide you through the process, and that's when things feel a little more in flow, right? And when we want something that isn't in alignment for us right now, or there's something better, then we feel that resistance. We feel like we're hitting a wall and we're feeling like there's something there that's stopping that manifestation from really coming into fruition. So when we get really comfortable with being where we are right now, and we sit with ourselves and we remind ourselves that we're exactly where we need to be, or else we wouldn't be where we are. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if you're like, wow, everything in my life isn't really going the way that I expected or wanted or I had envisioned. How can this possibly be what's good for me? There's a bit of trust the process that happens. And this is how we begin to surrender and connect with our soul light and connect with our inner guidance and ask, what can I do to support myself? What is most beneficial for me? What do I need? Asking those kinds of questions will really help you in co creating with your higher self and your soul, because you are your higher self. You are your soul. It's not like it's outside of you, but you're also a personality and an ego construct that's learning um, how to move through the physical world while connecting with the spiritual world. Those are very two different things, two very different things. And there is this balancing act, this dance that we do where we're weaving, right? We're weaving between the spiritual and the physical, the feminine and the masculine. And when we do this ebb and flow and we get really good at balancing the polarities and the opposites, we find that things feel more graceful and at ease in our life. When we're out of balance, there's a lot of chaos and there's a lot of things that come to the surface that highlight there's an imbalance somewhere in your thoughts, your choices, your perceptions, right? It's kind of like when we have those crazy dreams when we go to sleep and we wake up and we're like, "Oh my god, what was that dream about? It was so crazy and all over." It's like chaos, like those chaotic energies show you that there's something that needs to be seen by you, and it's like it needs to get your attention, right? So if you're finding at times your dreams are chaotic or there's energies that are chaotic in your life, it's trying to get your attention. The universe is like, hello. You need to look at this. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's just that you need to be aware of something that maybe has been unconscious within you. And that's how we become conscious, right? Like, look at the collective. Look at what's happening in the world. The chaos highlights the amount of imbalance. If there was no chaos, the world would just think, "Oh, everything's fine. Let's just do it the way we've been doing it. Let's just continue on doing the same thing that we've always done because everything's fine." Right? Things need to be able to be seen by the conscious mind, by the human mind so that we are aware of it. So that we're like, "Okay, I need to make a change. I need to do something differently. What I'm doing isn't working." And so that's why you may at times feel that things feel chaotic or things feel hard or challenging or difficult. It's just highlighting something for you to sit with and be with and to ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to show me? What is it that I'm not seeing? And you can ask your higher self, your guides, your soul, show me what this is trying to teach me. And listen, meditate, sit with yourself and really ask those questions because deep down within you, you know the answers. You know what the patterns are that you're here to unravel and the lessons that you're here to learn because you are your soul. It's just about bringing that to the conscious mind, right? And the soul will start to bring things to the surface for you to look at and see. If it didn't do that, you would have no awareness of it. And so that's what really happens when we're moving through these energies, when we're moving through things in our life, challenges, difficulties. What is it bringing up for you? What are the emotions? What are the thoughts? What is your mindset? So take a sip of my tea. So now let's draw a card. Let's see what will be most supportive for us to know at this time for each one of you who are tuning in, who are watching this. Is there anything that is helpful for us to know during this specific time on the planet? I've got this beautiful deck here. This is the Inner Child Oracle. There's a lot of beautiful imagery in this deck. That's why I like it. And it just sparks something within me. So let's pull a card and let's see, what do we need to know? The thing that I'm feeling guided to share right now is I'm like hearing this like little whisper. It's supposed to be fun. There's like this part that we forget that although at times we see being human as challenging, being alive on the planet right now is a really difficult task, that why did we choose this, and we question it all the time. From a soul's perspective, this is supposed to be fun, right? From a soul's perspective, this is an exciting adventure, one that you couldn't wait to be a part of. And at times it can be shocking, but also remember that having a physical body and experiencing, actually being able to enjoy the simple pleasures in life, it's such a gift, right? Because we understand that we're eternal. We are eternal, which means when we leave this body, we go back to remembering the truths that we're love, that yeah, that we're love. I mean, what's a deeper truth than that? And it sounds simple, but source is a paradox. It's simple and complex at the same time. Love is the most simple yet complex thing that we at times don't fully grasp or understand, but that love is the fabric of the universe. Everything in creation is was made and birthed through love. And so we forget that when we come here because we experience the opposite. We experience a lot of energies that do not feel loving, right? And so our reality dictates that love is something that is experienced temporarily. It's an emotion. It's not stable because my experience as a human so far on this planet has not been 100% love all the time. So, how could that exist simultaneously while I'm experiencing fear and, you know, betrayal and all of those other things? It is a paradox, but it's also part of the illusion, right? It's an illusion. All those other things that we're experiencing, it's an illusion because it's like love being dressed up as somebody who is unconscious, who is playing a role of a narcissist, for example. At their core, they're just love. Deep down, they're just source and body. They're the divine that's forgot who they truly are, or they're playing a role or having an experience. But when we leave, the veil of forgetfulness is released and we remember the deeper truth that we're love and that we're loved. And then we're like, that was fun. Let's go back and try it again. All right. So what do we need to know? Hmm. So the card says emotions are the reflection. Look for the deeper meaning. Wow. Emotions are the reflection. Look for the deeper meaning. So, what I'm feeling with this card in particular is that there may be quite a bit of emotions that have been surfacing. And through those emotions that you've been feeling, they're telling you something. They're trying to share with you a deeper truth. And and what I've noticed with emotions is that if you actually hold space for you to feel them, it's kind of like pulling on a thread. And then that thread starts to unravel and unravel and unravel and unravel. And you realize that there's quite the story and the tapestry connected to what you're feeling. And what I've been noticing in the Akashic records is that emotions are like a tool by the soul trying to show you the the deeper meaning behind why you're feeling the way you're feeling. And I feel sometimes it's like these emotions come up and are highlighted through other people, through our experience, because it's a really powerful way for our soul to help us to see or understand like where our blocks are or where our soul lessons are or what we're here to learn. And so when we start to see the patterns, right, we start to notice, wow, why do I always have this fear come up every time I do this? Or every time I try something new, I get all this like anxiety. Or, you start to recognize the patterns as you move through this journey. You start to realize, like, okay, this is coming up for me again. This must be a theme. This must be a soul wound or lesson. And so our emotions are kind of like the keys. They highlight things for us. They highlight something that we're not aware of. And that's what we were speaking about in the beginning about just things needing to come to the conscious mind. And so our emotions are like that. Eventually, we have to bring awareness to them because they start to bubble up, right? Everyone's experienced that at some point in their life where they've suppressed and repressed so much that eventually they just kind of blow and explode and the top pops off because we're not meant to store or hold on to our emotions. Our emotions are part of this experience, and a healthy experience of emotions is where we feel them and they pass through, and then we return back to neutral, right? It's like, oh, that brought something up. Okay, let's process and feel, and then it's meant to pass through you. And then that is supposed to then purify and come back into harmony with yourself. But what happens is emotions come up, we get uncomfortable, we tense up, and then we like repress or suppress or we distract ourselves, right? We're like, oh, I'm going to go do something else. So, the deeper meaning behind your emotions. And there's sort of a balancing with this because I've also noticed the other side of the spectrum where people obsess over their stories and try to like analyze something like I'm feeling this this must be because of this time that this happened when I was 5 and then they like psychoanalyze and they're more in the thinking and the analytical mind than the actual feeling of the emotion. um and that's actually like a distraction as well because we're overthinking so we're not feeling and processing and allowing for the emotion to move through you. So there is like a sacred dance between bringing awareness to the things that are coming up for us, sitting with them, and not trying to overly intellectualize our experience. But also, it's like when the emotions have space to be felt, usually once they're moved through, that's when the wisdom starts to come forward. It's like on their way out, we receive, oh, this was the golden nugget, this was the seed. But if we go in trying to figure everything out, sometimes that blocks us from actually processing the energy, if that makes sense. So when you're experiencing something, it's more important for you just to be with it. Be with it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to psychoanalyze it. Don't try to figure it out. Be with it. And as you're being with it, you ask it what it needs. You ask it, what do you need? And I actually talk to my emotions and those feelings like they're parts of me because they really are like parts of yourself that have experienced things like wounds and trauma. They're parts of you that have experienced things that are unprocessed. And so if you really get good at sitting with those parts of you and asking the right questions and not getting overly analytical, but being understanding and compassionate, those emotions will pass through. They will release and they will dissolve, and the wisdom will come to the surface to be revealed to you. So that's what I'm feeling with this card. Mhm. I pour myself some more tea. And feel free to type in the chat, any questions or any topics that you would like me to explore. I like that. Explore. Um, type down your questions and things in the chat or comments or things that you've been experiencing or moving through because we're all students of life, right? We're all here learning. And sometimes the things that we're having difficulty with or challenges with can really help somebody else just from us speaking about them, right? Just by us sharing, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm moving through. You may notice other people are also experiencing and feeling that. And through that understanding that we're not alone through our experiences and our journey, it helps us feel at peace to know that everyone is here learning just like you are, just like I am. We're learning and growing. I once heard someone say that we're just like nature. When we stop growing, we die. Right? Like, think about plants and trees, and if they have the inability to continue to grow, then they wilt and they die. Growing is a natural part of this experience. Everything is happening to help you to grow and expand. And some of us feel comfortable with growth, and some of us find it challenging because it means that we have to step outside our comfort zone at times. And if you're having a hard time stepping outside your comfort zone, I guarantee life, the universe, your soul will start to bring you things that shake up your life a little to push you along. I feel guided to share something about one of the jobs I had when I was in university. When I was in university, I worked at a nursing home and we had different floors. and different positions in the nursing home. And there was a lot of residents. Um, so how they did it is that, you would be assigned a specific wing or a specific floor, and you would get to know the people that lived in that wing and you would support them. And so you would have a specific routine, and then you just knew what you were supposed to do. Now, when I was working there, at times it was crazy. We were short staffed a lot. There was a lot of people who had last minute call in sick, and there wasn't enough staff to do all the jobs that needed to be done that day. And so I remember I used to come into work thinking I was working the floor that I always worked, and I knew the job, I knew the routine, and they'd throw me in somewhere else. They'd be like, "We're gonna pull you. We need you to work second floor today." And I would literally wanna cry because I didn't know any of the people in that wing. I didn't know, the routine. It was like chaos trying to, like, figure out what I'm supposed to do. And also, we were under a lot of, like, time crunches because we needed to get the residents up and ready into breakfast on time. And so what would happen is I get thrown into a new wing with new people, and I wouldn't know them or their routines, and it was like you were under the time crunch. It was so stressful. And so this would happen to me a lot when I worked there. I remember thinking like, "This is crazy." Like, every time I come in, it's like they would throw me for completely throw me a curveball, and they'd pull me from to all these different positions in the building, and I would have to basically learn as I go, like sink or swim. I'd get thrown into the fire, right, and have to, like, learn just as I went along. And so what actually ended up happening was I did learn and I figured it out. I figured out as I went along what I needed to do to set myself up for success. And there was a lot of failure. There was like a lot of mistakes, so to speak, right? Because we're learning, we're trying to figure it out. No one's giving us the instruction manual. No one gave me like the um the breakdown of what I needed to do. It was just kind of like just figure it out. And I'm really grateful for that job. I look back on it now and I'm really grateful because I learned a lot about how I learn and how resilient I am. And no doubt I would come home from work and I'd cry. I'd be like in tears. I'd be like, that was the hardest day. And like I got yelled at and like all these things would happen. And I remember how stressful it was. But then the next day I'd show up and I'd be a little bit better and I'd be a little more efficient and I'd be a little um just better at my job because I would figure out what worked and what didn't work. And eventually, after working there for 3 summers in a row, I got used to it. I got used to being thrown a curveball, thrown into the fire, having to figure it out, that I started, writing myself out notes so that I would know what to do when this happened. And I started going up and asking people who would work that floor, that wing, that knew the residents to write me down like some instructions or like a cheat sheet or something, and I'd have that in my pocket. So I learned little tips and tricks as I went along, but nobody told me what to do. I had to figure it out on my own. And by the end of working there for so many years, I was like a really valuable employee because I knew how to work every single floor and position in that establishment. I worked every shift, I worked every floor, and I did every job except for the kitchen. So, basically, if they needed someone to fill in, they would call me and I would get tons of hours because I knew how to work everything. And it wasn't because I wanted to, it was that I was thrown into it. And they'd be like, "You need to go and work in 3rd floor today, or you need to do baths today." And so I knew how to do every single job in that building, except for housekeeping and the kitchen. So I knew all of the other positions. And that was really empowering for me because I actually ended up training people because I figured it out and I learned how to do all of the different jobs through my experience there. I then started training people. And when new people would start, I would give them my notes and I would say, this is what you need to do. And instead of them having to figure it out like I did, I would give them my cheat sheets and I would support them and then like show them. And I started training people. And so my management would see that I was naturally just training new people that came in. And so they put me into that position to start doing that. So I wanted to share that story because I think at times we are afraid to get thrown into things that are outside of our comfort zone. We're afraid of messing up. We're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of having to experience challenges if we can help it. And that's natural. That's normal. Nobody wants to go through something challenging or difficult. Nobody wants to be thrown into it. If I was given a choice, do you think I would have wanted to be thrown into those new positions, those new roles that I knew nothing about? No, I wouldn't have chosen that. But it forced me to grow. It forced me to learn. And through experiential learning, I became the teacher, right? I became the teacher, the master, the one that was able to help others and guide them. And so maybe you resonate with this story. Maybe you've also experienced that where you've had a job or you've gone through something or life threw you a curveball, but you look back and you realize that it was for your greatest good because you were forced to step outside your comfort zone. You were forced to try something new. You were forced to and I use the word force lightly. Obviously we always have a choice, but it kind of nudges us in the right direction to see what we're capable of. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't realize how strong, resilient, powerful, and capable people we are until we're thrown into the fire, until we're thrown into those situations. And so I felt guided to share that today because I feel like it's coming up a little bit. There is this divine push to answer the call, answer the deepest calling of our soul to do the things that freak us out and scare us the most. And to make mistakes, to try again, to not give up. And I think that's the most important thing is that you see what you're made of when things get challenging or hard and you stick it out. I could have easily quit that job. I could have been like, I'm not doing this. This is too hard. This sucks. But I stuck with it. And I'm really grateful that I did because I felt really empowered at the end of my 3 years working there. I felt really empowered. I would waltz into that job and I would know exactly what I'm supposed to do because of all the times I didn't know what I was supposed to do and I had to learn, right? And this is how we develop mastery. How else are we supposed to learn if we don't do it? And I think that's kind of been the overarching theme of this video is what I've been trying to share and express and convey. And I really wanted to bring it in on a grounded level is that there is so much value in experience. Do not give do not rob yourself of experiencing something yourself and seeing what you're made of through maybe doing something that you know nothing about and thinking that, you know, you can't do like whatever it is you feel like you can't do, you can do anything. And it may not be easy at first, but eventually you'll learn, right? We all remember being a kid and starting something new or doing something new. And it wasn't easy and we had to work at it. And eventually we get it. Eventually it gets easier. Eventually, after trying so many different times or so many different ways, we figure it out. So I hope that inspires you. I hope that inspires you to not be afraid to just get a little messy at times, to not be afraid to make a mistake, to not be afraid to try something new, to do something different, right? Because if we keep trying to do something the same way and it's not working out, it means we need to try something else, right? We only feel like a failure when what we're doing isn't working out and we're not switching up our strategy, right? Or we give up. And so I think spirit is wanting to share and bring this message forward to remind you that if whatever it is you're trying to manifest or achieve or bring into your life, whatever it is, whether it's your business or a new skill or you're doing something and it's not working out the way that you think or wanted, try a different strategy, try something else, try to support yourself and what would be helpful and baby steps, right? One step at a time. All right, beloveds. Well, I feel like this video is getting long, and although I could do this all day, probably. Um, I feel like I'll leave it there. And I appreciate each one of you. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And I hope some of these messages were supportive and empowering for you. And yeah, I send you all big hugs and so much love. Thank you for just being a part of my channel, for subscribing, and I will see you all in the next video.